Hey, 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 I'm back. All right. So today we are going to talk about the technical aspect of recording. So, what actually happens in the studio when you are recording a song. Last time I kind of spoke about the main people right before the production, how to put a production together when you're going to record a song. But this time, I want to talk about what actually happens in the recording studio. I had never known what a recording studio was like or what do you do when you go there until a friend of mine invited me to the studio for the first time. And I went and I fell in love. Oh my gosh, it was so much fun. I'm telling you, recording a song is like the most amazing feeling when you go in that recording booth. And sometimes when the lights are down, oh my God, it's just you and that mic, and you can hear your voice. It's such a great feeling. So, but before we even get into the recording booth, before you actually go in and sing, there's a lot that needs to happen. So let's talk about the record producer. So now let's say you write a song. I'm a songwriter. You know that. I write my songs. I've done a few covers on my albums, but mostly I write my songs. So you write a song and you want to record it. Remember, most recordings are not done a cappella, okay? So when you're recording the song, you are going to need some assistance. If you are not a musician slash sound engineer or slash you do it all by yourself. And my whole thing is, even when you do it all by yourself, I always suggest, like for myself, I have a sound engineer that is different from my mixing engineer, and my mixing engineer is different from my mastering engineer. So I'm not using the same person. And there's a reason for that. Because it's really nice if you can afford it, if you have the money. It's really nice when you can use different people when doing your recording, okay? So that you have different ideas, you have different vibes, because everybody can contribute something to the record, okay? But remember, you have that main producer, which is usually me, okay? Because I'm organizing the entire thing. All right. So even though you'll have different people working on your project, you always need that one person. And sometimes you as a singer may not be that person because you may not have the ability to lead the project. Okay. In my case, it works out because I've learned how to do production. I can lead my own project. But most singers have someone else working for them or leading their projects. And remember, we did talk about the different types of producers. I didn't go in depth too much. So now I'm going to talk about the record producer, not the main producer. But remember, they can all be the same person. It could just be one person doing it all. And that one person is a genius if they're able to do all of that. So now, the record producer is the person who's actually going to help you create your sound. And usually that person is also a musician. Okay? Usually that's the person who's going to help you structure the song. You as an artist needs to be very involved or should be very involved. If you're not just a singer. Because remember, I did have a video where I did talk about the difference between a singer and an artist and all that stuff. Okay? So now, if you're not just a singer, you're an artist, you're definitely involved in the creation of that record. So that record producer become your assistant. Okay? Especially if they're playing the instrument and you don't play any instrument at all. So they're definitely the person creating the sound, playing the notes, okay? Getting all the instrumentations, the orchestra together, all right? So that person usually does it using a keyboard. So in the studio, most of studio work is not done live because live recording is very expensive. To bring in a live drummer, a live guitar, a live bass, to bring in live string, you're talking money here. So because of that, we are in modern time, okay, where the sound as real as the instrument when you record it properly, and if you have the proper mixing and the proper mastering, okay. So now that person, the record producer, usually does something that we call sequence, okay. So a sequencing is how you program the notes. So usually they're going to use the keyboard. So that keyboard is going to start with something very basic. They'll do the piano. You can use that same keyboard to add a keyboard sound. You can use that same keyboard to add a guitar sound. So that same keyboard will give you a guitar sound and can actually make it sound like it's a guitar player playing. So you can use that same keyboard to create a bass sound without hiring a bass player. You can also use that same keyboard to create a drum sound for your music. So that same keyboard can do it all. That's what you call programming. So that's what you call sequencing. So you're creating all the instruments, although you're not actually hiring someone to play all the instrument. All right. So that's what you call sequencing. Now, once you're sequencing, remember, sequencing is the cheapest way to go about creating your music. So once your sequencing is done, okay, remember in the process of doing the sequencing, that keyboard is usually hooked to a computer. And there's usually a music program like Pro Tools. Like Pro Tools is the one that most people use right now. There's a lot of other popular ones, okay, but I myself personally, I prefer Pro Tools, okay. So the Pro Tools would be like a music program or app that you use to record your sounds, to do your sequencing, okay. So now the technical part of recording itself requires some engineering work. That's why sometimes that record producer can also be a sound engineer, because they're operating the board, because they're touching the computer, they're using the keyboard, and then they're recording the sound of the keyboard in the computer. Okay? So sometimes the record producer may not be a sound engineer. So you may need a second person in the recording studio to actually record the sound while the other the record producer is actually playing. Okay? So that person is called a sound engineer. This person needs to also become your best friend. Why? Because they're the one, when you're ready to actually sing the song, who's going to be operating that board to make sure that your voice is recorded properly. Now, when they're recording, usually it has to be super silent, because you want to make sure that you're not recording any noise, especially when you're singing. Okay? So, the sound engineer, and then now you as the singer, or if you have a group or a choir and all of that. All right. So these are the basic technical things that happen. And I did do a video about how to sound great when recording, where I go into choosing the different types of mics. Okay. So doing a little review. Remember, you write your song, you get your record producer. Okay. You need to make sure that you're choosing somebody that understand your vision, okay? Somebody who can assist you properly. Very important, because you don't want to go in the studio and argue with anybody, because you don't understand them, they don't understand you, they don't vibe with you, they're not understanding where you're trying to go. So you want to make sure that that record producer, if it's not you, that you're choosing the right person to help you produce that record, to help you find the right sound for your song. Because some songs, sometimes they don't do well because the person producing the record was not the right person. They didn't bring the right sound for the song. Okay, so very important that you're choosing the right person for that job. And then your sound engineer, that's the person who's going to be recording the sounds, the singing, or possibly what's going on the keyboard as well. And then you as the artist. And then remember, you make sure that you're using the right program, Pro Tools or whatever other programs that you want to use, Cubase, okay, whatever you want to use. And then your mics, the choices of mics. And then there you go, you have it. So these are just some basic things that you need to know when going into a recording, because all of that will affect how successful your song will be. Because as you're recording a song, you want to make sure that everything is done right in terms of all the technical part. Yes, God will do the rest. Yes, God will open the doors. Yes, God will make sure that your song becomes a hit, because this is not just about you. If the song is going to be a hit, if the song is going to touch the people, it's not just on you. That one is not just on you. But you want to make sure that all the technical stuff are done properly. All right. So remember to give me a like, subscribe, give me a little comment. And then if there's anything else that you would like me to address, I will do it. Just let me know in the comments. Bye-bye. See you next time.